Let's look at another example here, number 3. Consider a line whose slope is -4 and the point 5,8 is on the line. So there's my numerical value for steepness, or the slope. Find at least 2 other points on the line. Let A represent the output variable, so I've labeled my output axis here appropriately, and X the input variable, so that's my x-axis here. And notice my scaling, so 5, 8 is right there. So I'm going to label that. And the goal here is to determine another point or several points on the line here using just that information. Well, this information tells us a lot. I mean, first of all, it tells us from left to right that decrease or that negative means it's falling. So it's going to do this, and it's going to fall 4 units along this axis for every 1 unit. If you think of that as over 1, it's going to be for every 1 unit. So immediately we should think of that -4 slope as really being -4 over 1, and that's saying a change in output of 4, down 4, or decrease by 4, better said, for each +1 along this axis here. So if we start with 5, 8, recognizing this is an output value and that's an input value, so as A decreases by 4, or will decrease by 4, a decrease by 4 for each +1 here. So we're going to subtract 4 from the output as we add 1 to the input. That's what that slope is telling us. And so what we get here is 6, 4. So down by 4, decrease by 4 for each increase by 1 here. So 6, 4, which is here, is another point on my line. 6, 4. And so we can keep doing that and playing that same game, that this guy is going to decrease by 4 as this guy increases by 1. That's what that slope is telling us. And so another ordered pair or point is 7 and 0. So 7, 0 is on our line right there. So we could go the other way to think, I don't have to think of this as -4 over 1. I can also think of this as just 4 over -1. That will work too, and I'll show you why. These have the same numerical values, by the way. So if we start with 5, 8 and say this, that the output will increase by 4 as we decrease the input by 1. In other words, here, as we decrease the input by 1, subtract 1, this guy right here will increase by 4. So add 4. And so what another point is that will give me 4, and that will give me 12. 4, 12 is another point. 4, 12 right there. So notice that also falls on that line right there. So that's how we can use slope, and hopefully you recognize the overall idea here is that the slope tells us a relationship between A and X here in this case. Tells us that this guy decreases by 4 each time this increases by 1. So that's a good understanding of a relationship, and I want to show you a good example of application in my next video.